I'd like to call this meeting to order. City of Palm Coast City Council meeting, Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. It is 6 p.m. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Holland?
Here.
Vice Mayor Nobile?
Here.
Councilmember Cuff?
Here.
Councilmember Clufus?
Present.
Council.
Make public comments on items not on the agenda. You have up to 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes will begin.
Good evening, George Mayo, Palm Coast. Last meeting ended when, with public participation, and then of course meetings are items not on the agenda for the council members. And I wanted to get up and ask some questions about what had transpired during that meeting, and was told you can only speak either in the beginning public participation or in the end. And I ask you to reconsider that. I think if somebody wishes to speak in both, as I had some questions about what went on during the meeting, besides what I brought forth before the meeting started, I don't think it'll really extend the meeting any further. One of the things I wanted to ask is I believe you had the workshop for our lobbyists, and I wanted to see if getting more money of our taxes for our school board back. Out of 69 counties, Flagler comes in 67th as opposed to how we put in the 5th most and get the 67th worth back. Technically, that's the school board, and that doesn't involve us. But if the school board gets more money in taxes, that involves us because that's less taxes that we have to pay. So I'm wondering if that would be on the agenda for you to talk to with the lobbyist. And the other thing, as I said, was I just hope you will reconsider and allow people to speak at both ends of the meeting. I think that would be very beneficial. Might bring up points of interest that, might help you people out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gretchen Smith. I'm with the Flagler County Chamber, and I'm also a resident of Palm Coast. I'm here for good news tonight. A key emphasis of our organization's Economic Alliance Council is to support the Flagler County Department of Economic Opportunity in attracting high-tech companies that will also bring with it higher-paying jobs. And an important component to this is adding, according to local experts like Tim Hale of Coastal Cloud, is the ability to offer high-speed internet connectivity and increased bandwidth. As a result, our chamber and our leadership, we would like to applaud your decision to hire a consultant to identify better ways to capitalize on your optical fiber network. We fully support this initiative that will expand the capability of next generation opportunities for businesses, entrepreneurs, and internet service providers. Thank you all for taking this action. We look forward to the study results and how Palm Coast will leverage this important and valuable asset going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
No fighting.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. As all of you know, there's rumors flying all over the city of Palm Coast that the city is planning on spending $200,000 or thereabouts for lighted signs about entering the city of Palm Coast. But I've noticed that over the last 9 months, the numbers just keep going up and up and up on the things that the city decides to spend money on. So if this $200,000 number comes in, that'll cover the 2s. And the 3s is going to be the number that we usually have to spend or we lose every year on the golf course. And then the 4s is going to be the sunshades that just got put up in 4 parks. And then the 5s are going to be the street lights, that $500,000+. We don't have anything for 6 yet, so that number's still open. And then the 7 is running around that's going to cost us to fix the roads and do the repairs that have to be made. We haven't used 8 yet, but we're into 9, because the 9 is the $967,000 that the city voted to spend to make new bathrooms. Now, after 9 comes millions. And I just want the city to be aware that it just seems like these numbers are being shoved down our throat, and we don't really have a say. And every time that the citizens get up and they complain about the numbers, the city council just takes it under advisement and then they vote on it. So maybe now that the numbers are up to the 9s, I certainly don't want to see something in the millions. And the last comment that I'd like to make, and I have exactly a minute, good. I've only been here for 2 years, and one of the most impressive people that I've ever met in the whole city of Palm Coast, publicly and privately, is leaving the city on Friday, and his name is Chris Quinn. People should be standing up and applauding for everything that Chris Quinn has done, because it's going to be a big, and I don't mean this to be facetious, but it's going to be a big pair of shoes for him, somebody to fill his shoes. And every time that I've ever needed a question answered, Chris Quinn was always there. So I'd like to applaud Chris Quinn.
Thank you for comments. Next speaker.
Steve Carr, Palm Coast. Not too long ago, I sent to City Council an email from Elders Update. It was talking about senior centers, and I just wondered if the city had anticipated doing anything as far as helping a senior center come to Palm Coast. Also, I'd like to talk about Florida Park Drive. Scientific study says if you smoke cigarettes, you got a high risk of getting cancer. Scientific studies says if you work with asbestos, you got a high risk of getting cancer. Scientific studies are out now saying that if you live in close proximity to a big, busy road, that children have a high risk of getting asthma, diabetes, leukemia. And for the elderly people, it's a higher risk from the traffic noise of having a stroke. Well, we wouldn't go and tell a cigarette smoker to keep smoking, and we wouldn't tell a worker that worked with asbestos to keep working with asbestos, knowing that they would get cancer. So with the scientific studies out about the harms to children and to the elderly from traffic, and these studies are talking about the homes being 250 feet away from the road compared to 60 feet, what Florida Park Drive homes are. So there's 8,600 cars per day, 645 trucks per day, according to FDOT, using Florida Park Drive. So I'm just asking, is the city really asking the parents of children to say, well, just wait till your child gets something before we'll react on it? I mean, you have safety programs to prevent them getting harm from physical damage, but what about their health? Isn't their health more important in a way? Because it's going to go with them for the rest of their life. Now, can you imagine a child growing up getting asthma and having to go with asthma for the rest of their life, or diabetes, or having to even fight for their life with leukemia? I can't imagine that, being a parent. So I'm just asking the city to take a look at what's going on in Florida Park Drive. 8,600 cars per day is just too much, 60 feet away from the homes, especially when scientific studies are saying that 250 feet is really not far enough. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Mark Berta, and I am a new resident to Palm Coast. I have been here about a year now. And what moved me to this area is the nice freeways, the green spaces, everything. And as I saw the new tax things come up, I understand, you know, we're a growing city. We need extra police protection. We need lighting. We need these things. So as per se, the new taxes coming up, fine. I have no problem with those. For our safety, it is beneficial. But what I do take exception to is where we start spending extra money where we really don't need to. In this age of smartphones, GPS, the little guidance things in your car, there's not one person that passes on I-95 does not know they're in Palm Coast. Plus the signage that we have on the access roads as you come off I-95, which are beautiful, very beneficial to our city. I cannot see why we're going to spend $200,000 on a sign for Palm Coast. If we need to spend the money, get 2 more deputies. In this time now, we're having more cars broken into, buildings being vandalized. We just had a Circle K had an armed robbery up on Cypress Park Road. And who caught him? It was a diligent deputy. So what we need to have, if you're going to spend that money, fine. Spend it on a deputy. Spend it on what we we need. We don't need a sign. Number 2, I also want to go about trash pickup. I lived in the Caribbean for 25 years, and I know what a hurricane does. And I'm on an island, and I understand things get tough, power goes out, those type of things, and I adjust to those. But the one thing I do not understand with this city, you raised our rates on our garbage pickup, fine. Prices go up, we have to do it. But now, here it's been about a month since we had the storm, and you eliminated 25% of our pickups. I have not had yard refuge picked up for a month. And I understand it should be different from the hurricane pickups. And so we put the stuff in plastic bags as our garbage collectors have asked for, but it's been sitting there for a month. And I just want to know, are we going to get a 25% reduction in our monthly rate? I mean, you eliminated 25% of our pickups, and I had a problem with AT&T. It didn't have power or cable. They reduced my bill because I didn't have service. It's the city of Palm Coast couldn't do that for their citizens. Thank you.
Your comments. Next speaker.
Mayor, council members, my name is Jimmy Milholland. I am a Palm Coast resident, Palm Coast business person, and the Flagler County chair. I would like to echo the comments that Gretchen had mentioned earlier. I think the RFP that went out is a good RFP. I read through that. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I think it would be very beneficial to the economic development that we have in front of us. The capability that we have is going to be substantial. I'd like to remind you, though, that we do and will need housing for those individuals when they come in here to work. So please do not forget that part of the equation. Affordable housing, which we've talked about before, and the advent of the fiber optics, which would be phenomenal. Thank you again for doing that. I think it's going to be a great benefit to us in the business world and into our city for our all future. So thank you again.
Thanks for your comments. Next speaker. Seeing none, I'll close public comment.
One more.
Oh,
Can I make one last question?
no, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, it was a very simple one.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm Elizabeth Robinson, Director of Community Cats of Palm Coast, and I'm here tonight to talk about the small cat colony that is in Linear Park, near the Linear Park Trail, by the Clubhouse Drive entrance to the trail. We have TNR'd that colony about 6 times in the last 4 years. We've removed continually kittens, friendly cats, and now we are down to 7 cats, where I believe some years ago there were as many as 25. 7 cats, all of them have tipped ears. I understand that, also I should say that the colony has regular caretakers who are very devoted, not necessarily associated with our organization, but just people in the community. I understand now that the city wants to relocate the colony, and they've asked both us and the Flagler Humane Society to participate in that. But I have to tell you that the reason those cats are there is that there is no safe place for them to go. If there was, we'd be on it. They are cats that are skittish, not completely feral, but not suitable for rehoming through the Flagler Humane Society. Relocating cat populations is very, very difficult and ill-advised. If you read up on what cat organizations have to say, moving those populations just doesn't go well for the animals. They arrive in their new location, they're disoriented, they run off, they're chased off by existing cats, they suffer, and they usually don't survive, or very often don't survive. And these cats are very beloved by a lot of people in Palm Coast, and we really would like them not to meet that fate. Also, I want to point out for those of you who may not be that versed in trap, neuter, and return, there's something called the vacuum effect, which means that when you remove cats from a location, new cats move in. I know Heidi knows about this. So it's not really productive either, because we take those cats away 2 years from now, there's new cats there. Maybe not even, maybe a year from now. The most humane thing is to leave them where they are, let them live out their natural lifespan, keep organizations involved in keeping the population from growing. And I also want to point out that the city now has officially come out on the side of trap, neuter, and return, which I'm thrilled about. Animal advocates are proud of our city for that. And this kind of policy of not allowing
Your 3
cats on
seconds.
city land
Thank you for your comments.
is not compatible with the TNR approach. So we are really hoping that you will rethink it.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
My name is Angie Pascucci. I'm a foster for Community Cats, and I would like to elaborate a little bit on what Elizabeth was talking about. When it comes to the vacuum effect, it is known worldwide, I've provided several sources here, that is a thing that happens. A group of cats will defend their territory and will only support a certain number. I can assume that it's preferable for everybody that the cats that are occupying that territory have been vaccinated and spayed and neutered to prevent future litters. The other alternatives are simply not humane. Relocating involves a lengthy process in which they should be held in cages for up to 3 weeks to help them acclimate. It often does not work. They are trying to return home, and they're often killed. If it does work, other cats will simply move in, and those are actually less desirable, not having been vaccinated, dewormed, or spayed or neutered. Further, TNR costs roughly $50 to $60 for the entire process, while it can cost up to $100 to euthanize that same cat. I also have several sources, at least 3 of them, that say that relocation should be an absolute last resort when the cats are in danger or their caretaker is moving. Again, the process taking several weeks and is extremely inhumane. It is known throughout the entire veterinary community that TNR is the most effective way of reducing a feral cat population, which is more cost-effective, more humane, and more sustainable in the long run. More of the benefits of TNR are that, of course, once you have a cat fixed, vaccinated, they're less of a risk to the community. There's less behavior problems associated with it, as with males spraying, females going into heat, etc. Culling is simply not a good option, neither is relocating. And for all of the reasons that I have said here, they do establish their home range. They are not invasive in the way that other species are, whereas they will just continue to grow and grow. Feral cats stay in their territory. They defend it, neutered or not. They tend to rebound very quickly when they're relocated, where Elizabeth mentioned 1 to 2 years. Cats can start producing litters as early as like 8 months old. So every 8 months, you're having 4, 6, 8 kittens at a time, all of whom can be a nuisance to people who don't care about them the way we do. Whereas with the current, situation that we've put lots of dollars, lots of time, lots and lots of volunteer hours into this particular colony. I myself have one at my house, a sweet little kitten that we're working on getting adopted.
Thank you for your comments. Next
you.
speaker.
Good evening. Judy McGovern, Palm Coast, Florida. I'd like to read part of a letter that I sent to someone, if you will bear with me. I put, please add my name to the list of those that believe the cats should be left alone. They're not hurting anyone, and they're being cared for by caretakers who are dedicated, spend their time and money, and never ask for anything in return. Most of the cats that are left, in fact, probably all of them, have been spayed and neutered at no cost to the city that declared Palm Coast as a TNR city not long ago. Volunteers have spent many hours trapping the kittens, trapping the cats, and finding homes for them. Relocation is not the answer, and if each member of the city council was or has been educated in the life of a feral cat, they would understand this. Besides, many times these cats are just homeless, having been tossed aside by a taxpayer, a responsible, upstanding taxpayer of Palm Coast who just didn't want a pet anymore. I thought that you would make a difference, and I voted for all of you. I thought you would make Palm Coast more animal-friendly. Beautification is a good thing, but it comes from the heart. And beautification is a good thing, and it comes from the heart. And these animals are just as beautiful to the people who love them as your trees and your landscaping and all the things you do to make Palm Coast a city that people want to move to. I hope you will take the fate of these animals under careful consideration and let them live out the rest of their life in familiar surroundings where they are cared for. If I might quote by Gandhi, the greatness of a nation can be judged by the way its animals are treated. What does this say for Palm Coast? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Alan Peterson. Last month I was here at your final budget hearing, being somewhat dismayed at your proposed increase of 12% in spending, and suggested that perhaps you could make more of an effort to divide projects into need to have and nice to have. Since that time, I read in the paper about a big sign with Palm Coast's name on an overpass in Palm Coast. I suspect that there are many citizens who think that this is not a need-to-have item, and I suspect there are also many more that would feel that it isn't even a nice-to-have item. With your spending at such high levels, I would hope that you would reconsider and permanently cancel or indefinitely cancel this particular project until such time as you can add some nice-to-have items on the schedule. But I've heard from a lot of people who are very upset about this particular expenditure and the size of the expenditure. The other item I have is I'm having trouble trying to determine when yard waste and hurricane waste will be picked up. I'm not having any help from either the city or from Waste Pro. Now, I had read earlier that you were going to pick up yard waste on the current schedule, and that as time permitted, you would pick up hurricane waste. But in the last 3 weeks, I've had nothing in my neighborhood that's been picked up. No yard waste, no hurricane waste, and no idea as to when it might. Now, I understand clearly that it's difficult for for Waste Pro or any contractor that you might hire to kind of pinpoint the exact time of pickup. But some communication on the website and in the newspapers as to what sections will be picked up, hopefully at some kind of a reasonable schedule, and separated out as you originally did into yard waste, tree limbs, et cetera, and then construction material. But it's been very disappointing that the communications, at least that I've been able to uncover, don't give any information. The city doesn't give any, neither does Waste Pro, other than we're doing the best we can. And I'm sure that all the residents understand that, but it would be nice to have a little bit of an idea as to how long this material will sit in various neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Close public comments. I'll take it back to some questions. Obviously, we'll make a determination of our lobbying firm tonight, and I will say that I think we're always supportive of helping our government partners, and I can't think of a better issue than the lack of funding for our school district. So I really want to thank you for your comments. It's an important one, and we can discuss comments at a later time with our council comments. Thank you to our chamber for recognizing our efforts for increasing our fiber capacity and recognizing it connects directly to economic development. And I think this council has stated that and has agreed by our actions. As far as the spending in the city of Palm Coast, from Mr. McDonald's comments, you know, I know we've had many discussions about our what we're paying for our tax dollars. I just also want to recognize the fact that we have the lowest municipal tax rate in the state of Florida. I don't think that should go unrecognized, because I think we do an exceptional job to ensure that we're spending the taxpayer dollars as wisely as possible. And, you know, we put a lot of effort into that, and it's due to our strategic action plan that we tie that directly to our spending. So there is a rhyme or reason to every single dollar that is spent in the city, and it's reflected in the services every single day. As far as I recognize again Mr. Carr's comments, there's been nothing brought up. We went through our budget process as far as our senior center. We did increase our senior services, and our capacity, adding capacity to our community center will certainly allow for increased opportunities for programming for all generations. As you know, our vision indicates that we are a multi-generational community, and we recognize that by providing services for all ages in our community, and we need to continue to do that. Okay. As far as the gentleman, welcome to Palm Coast. We're glad to have you, and I certainly appreciate your comments. I'm not sure about the, I'm going to turn this over to our city manager, about 25% reduction of pickup, and I don't know where that generated from. I'm not sure.
Good evening. It was actually obviously going to be part of my presentation at the end, but with a couple of comments about debris pickup, I give City Council and the community a little update. First of all, our typical recovery plan did not work this time. It didn't happen. Because our typical recovery plan after a storm is that we have contracts with national companies that bring in their resources, just like after Matthew, where we had half a dozen to a dozen major trucks that were geared towards debris. When we called them this time, they kind of laughed at us and said, Palm Coast is not where we're going to be because of Harvey and what was going on in Texas and South Florida, and the national companies aren't coming to Volusia County, Flagler County, et cetera. We have also always had a relationship with some of our local contractors and haulers, and immediately kicked that in. But the resources are very difficult to obtain. So it's not manpower, it's equipment. And the equipment, typically we can go to West Florida and rent equipment to ask for it, and it's plentiful. This time, the answer was real short. No, we need it ourselves because Irma hit every community out there, and the resources are basically what you have here in town. So it's slow. People, we have two things going on. First of all, we have, ever since within a week of Irma hitting us, we've had trash debris pickup or storm debris pickup every day for 6 days a week. And it's been going on. And the problem is, if there haven't been in your neighborhood, it doesn't appear like we're doing anything. Thus, the comment about, well, I don't see any service, whereas other neighborhoods, it's been picked up. And miles and miles have already been picked up, but not probably even a quarter of the community at this point. On Wednesdays, which is a normal Waste Pro pickup, they are picking up bags and cans. But they're, to me, bags and cans, and they're not getting to every neighborhood. And so if you haven't had, I talked to Waste Pro today, if you haven't seen someone pick up your bags and cans the last 2 Wednesdays, it very likely, they better be there tomorrow, because they've assured me they will be there tomorrow. As far as the rest of the pickup, we have just today, Waste Pro was able to find another claw truck, another debris type truck. They don't have the people, so we have rented it from them, and we have our crews operating that and went out operating that today. We have 2 other crews that are using what they call a great all. It's not the best equipment, but it's getting there. We've also geared up, because we have a lot of small stuff, of our chippers behind a box truck and trying to use that as a means of picking up some of the small stuff. So we are putting a lot of effort in trying to increase the resources the best we can, but it is really a struggle, and it is going to take a while. As far as how long, people aren't going to like to hear this, but we're talking probably somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks before we're totally finished in the community.
So let me ask you this, so how are we communicating that to the residents?
I know there's been a lot. Cindy, you want to come up and talk about a little bit about social media and
On our website?
Cindy will answer that.
So yes, we've added a tile onto the website that says debris pickup info, and we have a news release type of item that's posted there. In the news release, we talk about our contractors and our public works crews being the pickup. We don't give a timeline, we just ask people to be patient, and we do say several weeks. Just today, I heard that there were some additional questions, and so Kim Small and I plan to meet tomorrow to discuss what types of questions and issues they're getting so that we can try to more directly answer people's questions. We are using social media, we've had a video, we're putting in lots of posts, we've done lots of media interviews. In some of the media interviews, we have specifically stated like which contractors we've hired and things like that, so.
And let me just state, this public comment's over, sir. Thank you. We're recognizing our customer service representatives tonight, and I can tell you, having been there through this occurrence and watching them not sleep for 4 days and answering calls and continuing to do that, I have not witnessed a more dedicated group or team other than our current customer service department. So it is frustrating, I'm sure, for our residents, but we also need to understand that these very dedicated members of our team are trying to do the best they can by yielding these calls. So we need to really respect the fact that they're trying their best to do that. But secondly, I can tell you, I'm on calls every single day with the mayors across the state of Florida, and every single community that has been affected and impacted and continues to be by the flooding, by the continual occurrence of rain throughout their communities, is really struggling with these issues. This is not an issue that these other mayors are not impacted by, they're not frustrated by. They are trying to find the equipment just like we are. These are regular, everyday conversations I'm having. I can tell you, the city manager of Flagler Beach, having lost 400 homes within their community and having debris of their entire content of their homes in front of their house and not picked up has been very sad, very sad. So I think we are doing the best we can. It is not a perfect scenario. We also have to recognize the fact that these are FEMA reimbursement dollars. So the fact of the matter is, we cannot just go out there and just pick it up without documentation, without working with companies that are recognized by FEMA. So these are very technical issues that I know. I know the frustration is there, and I can say, we sincerely apologize, but all I can definitely tell you, it's not without the dedication of our very hardworking members of our team that are not trying to resolve this issue. So I think the best we can do is continue to try ways to communicate with our residents, to ensure that we're working diligently to resolve this issue, and I hope we don't ever have to deal with these hurricanes year after year, because they're very taxing on our community. I met with our Representative Renner the other day, and he said what's the most frustrating thing is dealing with FEMA, because we have yet to get reimbursed from Matthew. So you're talking about a $2.5 million reimbursement that we have yet to receive, and talk about frustrating and how frustrated he is. He said he calls every day. So, we're dealing with outside entities that make it challenging for us to act, internally without these type of things, but we need these reimbursement dollars to replenish our reserve funds. And I would just really ask that our residents try to be very patient through this time, and know that this has really taxed our system very much so. So I think that's all I can say.
And it's a high priority. We understand the frustration. We'll keep on it. It won't be as fast as people like, though.
Sorry. And just continue with the communication efforts. I think that's the best we can offer, and continue to work on the issue. And, we obviously have heard from a population of people about our feral cat issue and our relocation efforts, and I'm hoping that we can talk about that. Perhaps, I for one, need to understand this issue a little bit more, as far as what populations we have here in our city, what's it looked like, how have we dealt with it. I've not been on the city council long enough to actually understand how we've dealt with it historically, and ways we can, improve.
Right. Mayor, maybe I could, and we can discuss further if you'd like, but I'm prepared to talk a little bit about it, because we've had a very positive relationship in the last year and a half with Humane Society. And I think Community Cats is one of the organizations they coordinate with. But, there used to be a lot more conflicts between the city, the neighbors, cats, cat people, et cetera. In the last year and a half, you don't hear much about it, and it's been very positive. We have a very good working relationship with the Humane Society to try to deal with the feral cats. And there are numerous colonies throughout Palm Coast. I think most people would be surprised as to how many colonies. Some of them relatively small, but there are a lot of what they're referring to as community cats, feral cats. And our animal control people have been working very closely with Humane Society to allow those populations to stay. And we think the Humane Society is doing a very good job of working with us to manage that program. And you don't hear about us relocating like we have in the past, because historically what we do is we get a phone call, we go trap them and remove them. We don't do that anymore. We've had, in working with the Humane Society, we really have two guidelines, or two rules that we've asked them to follow. One of them is to abide by state and local laws. One of those is not just because it's a law, but because it avoids the conflicts and that is not to allow any of the colonies on public property or city parks. Historically, we've had a lot of conflict. We've had cats killed, we've had people getting into it. Mayor, not very long ago, you presented a complaint about feeding squirrels on Linear Park. There's another side out there that really do not want to see these colonies, whether they're squirrels or cats or whatever. And so what we've asked them to do is find locations that it's not a public location, so we get into those conflicts. It's also our local laws, and it's very common not to allow cat colonies in parks. If you allow this one, then you got Waterfront Park, you got every other park out there could have a colony in it, and then you're going to get into conflicts. So the only other guideline is to avoid the nuisance or the conflict with residents and businesses. And that's been going quite well. You don't hear those kind of conflicts out there. I am very confident we can work with Humane Society to find a solution to this small colony, and we will continue to do that. But it is something that we have to work together on to try to find a solution that we don't have the conflicts, we don't have the cats on public lands, but we avoid the problems of just trying to trap them and do away with them, but we actually follow the TNR type guidelines to do this the best we can.
Well, then I think the best resolution, because we're not going to resolve this tonight, if you're in discussions, I think bring everybody around the table, we've done that historically,
Right.
To have a very comprehensive discussion on how we do this
Right.
is probably the best solution. So I think if you can arrange that for
Yep.
next week and then
Barbara-
come back to us.
Barbara has some good ideas as to how we could probably accomplish this without maybe even trapping the cats. So there are some solutions out there if we work together.
Prepared to deliver that to us in the next workshop?
I don't know the time frame, but we'll work towards that.
In the meantime, can we make sure that the cats won't be touched until we have a workshop? Won't be moved or anything?
Well, you know, the fact of it is that, I don't know where we are on that, but we'll get back to you before we actually move them. Yes, I can tell you that.
I think that's good. Thank you. Okay, thank you for all your speakers and comments. We'll now move to the agenda item number E, which is the adoption of the minutes of the city councils. Can I entertain a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second?
Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number F2 is a proclamation recognizing October 1st, 2017 to October 7th, 2017 as Customer Service Week, and Councilwoman Shipley will be presenting this proclamation. We'd ask everyone receiving it to please come forward.
They're going to watch me read it. It's kind of scary.
Lining up for the picture.
Okay, ladies. Whereas our businesses and government systems, both locally and across this nation, recognize that making a strong commitment to exemplary customer service builds virtual customer trust. And whereas businesses and governments whose professional service representatives pay attention to the needs and expectations of their customers with responsive problem-solving create steadily satisfied clients. And whereas the City of Palm Coast Customer Service Division consistently responds to and supports their residents by committing to the highest standard of service every single day. And whereas Palm Coast residents have relied heavily on the knowledgeable, courteous interchange of information and inquiries with their city's Customer Service Division for the past 8 years, addressing an average of 100,000 inquiries per year regarding matters such as new service setup, trash, stormwater drainage, water leaks, or billing. And whereas since 1992, the United States Congress established the first full week of every October to recognize customer service representatives who work on the front lines each day. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Palm Coast Mayor and City Council do hereby proclaim the week of October 1st through October 7th as Customer Service Week, and encourage all citizens to acknowledge the contributions customer service representatives make to this community by providing useful information with diligence and compassion. adopted the third day of October 2017, signed Melissa Holland, Mayor. Would like to speak? Do you have somebody that would like to speak?
Just on behalf of all of us, we'd just like to say thank you, and we will continue to make you proud of us.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is agenda item number F3 is a proclamation recognizing October 8, 2017 through October 14, 2017 as Fire Prevention Week. Vice Mayor Nobile will be presenting this proclamation.
Get these boys up here. I'm not bashful. Not you. No, gosh, I know you. Mayor, Council, whereas the City of Palm Coast is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Palm Coast, and whereas U.S. fire departments responded to 365,500 home fires in 2015, resulting in 2,560 civilian deaths, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and whereas newer homes are built with lightweight materials that burn faster than older home constructions, and many of today's products and furnishings produce toxic gases and smoke when burned, making it impossible to see and breathe within moments. And whereas these conditions contribute to a much smaller window of time for people to escape a home fire safely, with people having as little as 1 to 2 minutes to escape from the time the smoke alarm sounds. And whereas a home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation and should be developed by all members of the household. And whereas a home fire escape plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms in all required locations, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon exiting. And whereas practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. Whereas the Palm Coast Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection, education, and whereas Palm Coast residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2017 Fire Prevention Week theme, Every Second Counts, Plan 2 Ways Out, effectively serves to educate the public about the vital importance of developing a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practicing it twice a year. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Palm Coast Mayor and City Council hereby proclaim October 8th, 2017 through October 14th, 2017 as Fire Prevention Week, and urge all residents to find and develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it twice a year, and to participate in the many public safety activities and efforts of the city's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Week 2017. Signed this 5th day of September 2017, Mayor Melissa Holland.
Thank you, Councilman. We appreciate this opportunity tonight to be here to accept this. On behalf of Chief Beadle and Chief Forte and the members of the Palm Coast Fire Department, it's our pleasure to accept this. Throughout the month of October, you're going to see the fire department be much more engaged with the community through social media posts, holding educational talks at every one of our elementary schools, and holding events at churches and libraries. So we're going to be out there in education and enforcing the point, fire prevention practices. And then as Councilmember Nabil mentioned, every second does count. Plan 2A's out, and that's our theme that we're going to be emphasizing. So again, on behalf of the members of the fire department, we'd like to thank you for this opportunity tonight.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, that's number one.
Okay.
Maybe this was higher up, so it's
Thank you again for all your service to our community. Okay, we'll now move to agenda item number G4, which is an ordinance. Mr. Reichman.
Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the City of Palm Coast 2035 Comprehensive Plan, as previously amended. This is pursuant to Section 163.3184 of the Florida statutes and amends the future land use map, or FLUME, designation for a 5-acre more or less parcel of land more particularly described in Exhibit A to the ordinance. This parcel is located 1,800 feet north of White View Parkway on the east side of US 1, and it's being changed from agriculture and timberlands, which is the Flagler County designation, to a mixed use, which is the City of Palm Coast designation. This ordinance provides for codification, severability, and effective date. This is second reading of a legislative matter.
Mayor, City Council, this is a second reading. You heard the full presentation at your business meeting, your last business meeting. We've had no additional communication or comments. We believe it's ready for final approval. Just for the audience, it is located immediately north of the Alamo Business Center, self-storage on the east side of US 1. So it's just north of Whiteview, but I think that's a better description of it.
All right. Council, any questions or comments? None? Open to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number G4, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number G5. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the official zoning map as established in Section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code. This ordinance amends the official zoning map for 5 acres more or less of certain real property with the tax identification, tax parcel identification number 221130-5545-500020. This parcel is generally located 1,800 feet north of Whiteview Parkway. It's on the east side of US 1 and is more particularly described in the Exhibit A to the ordinance. It's being rezoned from agriculture, which is the Flagler County designation, to light industrial, or IND1, which will be the City of Palm Coast designation. That's the zoning district. This ordinance provides for conflicts, for severability, and provides for an effective date. Mayor, Council, this is the second reading. This is a quasi-judicial matter, so if there have been any ex parte communications since the first reading, those need to be disclosed.
A member of the council wish to disclose any ex parte? No? Okay. Any, Mr. Landon?
This is the companion to the FLUME, future land use map, the rezoning actually, it's initial zoning for the city. And once again, it's right across from that industrial park there on the west side of US 1. So industrial zoning, we believe, is very compatible for this area.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Now I'll entertain, or open up to public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number G5, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to this council, entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Now move to agenda item number G6. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council, City of Palm Coast, Florida, to annex property to be included within the corporate area and city limits of the City of Palm Coast upon adoption of this ordinance. This ordinance provides for the annexation of approximately 9.94 acres of property, which is described in Exhibit 8 of the ordinance. It lies in the area approximate to the existing city limits of the City of Palm Coast, Flagler County, Florida. This ordinance provides for annexation in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Section 171044 Florida statutes, and it provides for the annexation of real property, the amendment of the corporate and city limits, for the rights and privileges resulting from the annexation and the effect of the annexation upon land uses. This ordinance provides for the effect on ad valorem taxes, for the effect on businesses and occupations, for conflicts, and provides for severability and for an effective date.
This is a first reading. You heard the presentation during the workshop, but Ida is going to make this presentation tonight. You look surprised. Where's Bo?
Second read, Corona.
Oh,
We did this. I thought so.
this is Corona. All right, I apologize. I'm one ahead. This is second reading. It's annexation. It's standard. We have no additional comments. We're ready for final approval.
There you go.
No wonder she's looking at me like I'm crazy.
For the public wish to make public comments on agenda item number G6, please do so at this time.
I think he did that on purpose, just to see her eyes get really big.
She was willing to step up, though. That was the best part.
She was on her way.
Good evening, George Mayo, Palm Coast. Just to satisfy my curiosity and possibly anybody else in the audience, when you have these readings and you're talking about the lands, including the previous two amendments, is it possible to put the map up on one of the screens so that, we might be able to just visualize where these are?
Thank you. For comments. Next speaker. Seeing now, I'll close public comment. That is a great idea.
Yep, and Bo's going to do that for this one for you.
Thank you.
Right, Bo?
Okay.
there
Any
it is.
questions, council members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval? Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number H7, Mr. Reichman.
This one's a little different. This is an ordinance of the City Council, City of Palm Coast, Florida, relating to pharmacy locations and medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities. This ordinance amends Section 14.02 of the Land Development Code to add definitions for pharmacy and medical marijuana treatment centers, and amending Section 3.0302, Table 3.4, to establish permitted zoning districts for pharmacies and medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities. This ordinance provides for severability, codification, for conflicts, and provides for an effective date.
This is the first reading of the ordinance I was anticipating being next. A little different than our typical land use type proposal. So let me introduce it by stating that the voters approved the constitutional amendment, and then after that, the state legislature developed some guidelines, and they developed very strong guidelines, indicate what the cities and counties can and cannot do in relationship to the medical marijuana dispensaries. So you had some options. You've given us some direction. Ida has worked with the rest of the city planning staff and our city attorneys and developed this ordinance for your consideration. And so she's going to give the presentation tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is the proposed medical marijuana ordinance. Senate Bill 8A was passed in late June of this year, and it established the framework. It gave local governments the guidance, the definitive guidance in terms of the regulation of medical marijuana and its facilities. Senate Bill 8A addressed a number of issues related to the use, but in terms of the regulation of facilities, it does a number of things. It states that the facilities cannot be within 500 feet of a public or private school, that the facilities must be in an enclosed structure. It requires that the building and fire code applies. It establishes hours of operation. Again, these state requirements establish hours of operation, no visible advertising from the street, dusk to dawn lighting, and it has security and alarm provisions. Senate Bill 8A also includes what's referred to as preemption language. This gives definitive instruction in terms of what local governments can and cannot do. With respect to the growing and processing of marijuana, it says that a city cannot ban a medical marijuana treatment center, growing or processing facility. In terms of dispensaries, the preemption language states that a city can ban a medical marijuana treatment dispensary. However, if a city chooses not to ban a dispensary, then the city cannot be more restrictive than it currently regulates pharmacies. So basically, the preemption language establishes the parameters from which the city can regulate medical marijuana treatment centers. So staff reviewed where our current pharmacies are located, and we learned that we have two different styles of pharmacies. We have retail-type pharmacies with retail uses, such as Winn-Dixie, Publix, CVS, and Walgreens. And we have our more traditional, standalone, exclusively focused pharmacies. And I think we're familiar with these locations as well. We learned that we have about 17 of these locations citywide, and that they're permitted in Commercial 1, Commercial 2, and Commercial 3 as retail uses, and Office 1 and Office 2 as medical and professional uses. On August 8th, we did a workshop on this issue. We presented 4 options. One was to ban the dispensary location, consistent with the preemptive language option. A second option was to regulate the dispensary use as we currently allow pharmacies, meaning that they could be in COM 1, COM 2, COM 3, Office 1, and Office 2. This would not have required a change to our ordinance. The third option we presented was to amend the Land Development Code to specifically define pharmacy, since we currently don't have a definition for pharmacy in our Land Development Code, and establish specific allowable districts for the pharmacy use. And since we were under moratorium at that time, and we've extended the moratorium, another option was to extend the moratorium. At the workshop, the council directed staff to evaluate and pursue option 3, which was to amend the Land Development Code to define pharmacy as allowed within specific districts in the zoning table, with the intention of excluding this use within neighborhood commercial, COM 1, since this use is generally located interior and in close proximity to neighborhoods. The proposed ordinance drafted defines pharmacy and defines medical marijuana treatment center consistent with state statutes. It allows the pharmacy and medical marijuana treatment center use in COM 2, COM 3, that's general and high-intensity commercial, and Office 1 and Office 2. The use is specifically excluded from COM 1, that's the neighborhood commercial use in our zoning code, and it allows the proposed pharmacy use in master plan developments if the pharmacy use is specifically identified in the master plan development, because those uses have specific development agreements attached to them. So the proposed ordinance defines pharmacy as a retail use license under Florida statutes to dispense or sell prescription drugs not limited to medical marijuana treatment center dispensaries as referenced in Florida statutes. And it makes this amendment to our zoning table under office, medical, and professional use. It creates a place for pharmacy as an additional use, and it establishes that that use would be permitted in commercial 2, commercial 3, office 1, office 2, and it's footnoted in master plan development with the special provision that that agreement would have to be reviewed to determine if that agreement addresses pharmacies or drugstores or a similar type use. The rationale for making the change this way is that much of the city's commercial 1 is located interior and within close distance to neighborhoods, and that commercial 1 is intended for daily neighborhood needs. And it establishes a preference for these uses to be located in larger, more accessible and visible locations. Also, currently, we have no pharmacies located in commercial 1, therefore there are no grandfathering issues. So the current status of this ordinance is that the Planning, Land Development, and Regulation Board recommended the ordinance 6-0 at their September 19th meeting. And of course, this is the proposed first reading for the ordinance, with the second reading being scheduled for October 17th. And we are currently under moratorium for 60 days until November 4th, or this ordinance is approved. And I just will add that we are starting to receive inquiries regarding potential interested parties. So.
Thank you. Council members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number H7, please do so at this time.
Good evening again, George Mayo. On the first and second slide, the first slide said that no advertising would be allowed. Second slide said if you allowed them, it would only be, the state would, you couldn't regulate it any more than you would a pharmacy. So I'm a little vague on that, that CVS has their sign, CVS, Walgreens has Walgreens. Would they be allowed to have some kind of signage to show what it is? Or if it's just a blank building, would people be driving around the block and around the block if they needed to? I'm not looking for large advertising or anything, but I think there should be something that would designate what it is. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Mr. Landon?
I think the issue is that is what the state is saying, is that there are no regulations. So if the state tells us, or no advertisement, if the state says no advertisement, then
But it says visible in the street, right? Visible.
Is that, I'm going to ask for.
I showed images of the existing dispensaries. They're very low-key
Yeah, so
operations.
it's just not signs like CVS, but there could be a sign on the door, so people could see.
I think the important thing for everyone to understand is that this is an aspect of regulation that is being designed specifically and implemented and enforced by the state of Florida. Otherwise, all we are allowed to do is regulate them as far as their locations as we locate pharmacies. Everything else has been preempted to the state. So with that, yes, there are some limitations that the state has imposed upon the signage of these facilities. I'm not aware specifically of the exact regulations of the signs of these facilities. I know that they are kept to a minimum.
Our words. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number I-8.
Mayor, City Council. A little background. Our contract with our current lobbyist expires this year, so it's time for either to renew or to go out for proposals. City Council asked for us to go out for proposals. You received proposals from 4 firms. You narrowed it down to 3, and at your last workshop, you saw presentations and asked questions and had interaction with those 3 firms. And then tonight is your night to select one of those 3 firms. I would suggest the process be, first of all, you need to invite comments from the public before you take action, so you need to do that, and then have discussion amongst yourselves. And then you have to, this is where you get into a selection process that you just have to have a motion to hire one of them, and if you get 3 votes for that firm, then that's who you would hire. If your motion does not get 3 votes, then you need to go to the next firm until you get three votes for one of the firms. So this is unusual because usually the staff is a selection committee, and then they bring that forth to you. But with your direction, you felt like this was a firm that was tied directly into your relationship with our representatives and senators, and it would be a good idea for you to be part of that selection process. So welcome to our world tonight. So Mayor, that's my introduction.
Okay. I will open it up to the public for public comment. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number I-8, please do so at this time.
Jack Kyle, Palm Coast. Could you explain to me how you cannot get a 3-2 vote with 5 people sitting on the council, unless one abstains, and I don't think you can abstain on something like this. So you say you have to have 3. Well, you can't have less than 2.
Next speaker.
Louis McCarthy, Palm Coast. I say pick the company that is more well-rounded. In other words, you had one company, they were all lawyers. You had another company that they were more better, and then you had a company that was blown. It did this, it did that, and everything else. But at the same time, they work even when the legislature is not even working, is not even functioning. They're functioning and everything. And I think we need that kind of service because we're so small and everything, to put our names out there and everything. And then they have their ear to what's going on. We need somebody that has their ear to what's going on, because as we saw this year, everything that got passed almost out of the dark, you know. The things that you heard about at first, they went, but it's the little stuff that was passed under the table that nobody knew about that went across, and only the big firm really knew about it, the larger firm. So I say the larger firm.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Okay, I'll close public comment. I think just to Mr. Carroll's point, 3 votes or...
3 affirmative votes or 3 yes votes is what it will take.
Or negative, yeah. I mean,
Well, to appoint someone, you'd have to have 3 positive votes is the point.
But you can have 3-2, but it could be against.
And then if it's 3-2 against, then you need to go to the next firm. In order to select a firm, you've got to have 3 affirmative votes. Yes.
And then thank you for your comments, Mr. McCarthy. So, okay, council members, I'll open up the discussion or entertain a motion.
I'd like to, oh, Nick, no, you were drinking, sorry. I was reading through this, pondering, trying to figure out who I would like here. And I think one of them made the statement, which is pretty true, that all three of them are very competent and companies that are going to serve us probably well. Personally, I'm not a fan of lobbyists. We're a small district, and we should be able to go talk to our delegation, but I believe the lobbyists do more for the global Florida achievement agenda than just our private one. But again, like I say, I don't see any real difference between them, and I just would like to throw my 2 cents in and say I'd like keeping who we have, because the only thing they have that the others don't is they have familiarity with Palm Coast, with the staff, and that's all I got to say about that.
Yes, please.
So I thought that was a very educational session that we had with all those lobbyist groups. That was great. My comments would be, one, our current lobbyist, I found it interesting that they didn't find a conflict in the fact that they supported Senate Bill 596 exclusively for AT&T, but our main concern is home rule. So that was one of the bills that really, it didn't make any sense. They were all about ensuring that they prevented conflict, yet they were the sole supporter behind a movement that limited our home rule. So I'm not certain that they're the right decision to go with them. Between the other two, what I most was swayed by was the fact that they are a lobbyist for Daytona State College. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, and we don't have many opportunities to grow our education opportunities in Palm Coast. I know Daytona State College has numerous facilities, but if they were able to expand in our area, whether it be in Palm Coast or auxiliary, it's still good. Additional comments?
I mean, I would just like to say, I agree. I can tell you it's not going to get any easier every legislative year. We're going to be faced with these issues that we have to fight for our right to govern locally and to advocate on behalf of our residents. And speaking with Representative Renner this past weekend, the incoming Speaker of the House will be very similar to the current Speaker of the House, which will, his mentality is to take away a lot more ability for us to govern locally, which is disappointing because I believe the best form of government is closest to your home, and I believe we make the decisions that we feel is right for our community and that we care about every single resident and every single issue. So I believe strongly we need to set and send to them a very strong advocacy group that will give us the ability to have our voices heard, because every unintended consequence that comes out of the legislature every year and these unfunded mandates continue to cause us to grapple with the fact of how we spend our taxpayer dollars. And it can become quite frustrating when they institute legislation that requires us to upgrade our well system and everything else without us having the ability to say we can do this year because we can afford it. So I'm not in favor of keeping our current lobbyist just for the fact that I think he has served us since the inception of the city when we got a lobbyist, and I think it's just time for a change and a group that I think can carry our voice and strongly carry our voice. So those are my thoughts. Were you saying something? I'm sorry. I know, I'm sick, or I know.
You thought it was.
I'd like to introduce a motion that we choose Southern Strategy Group as our lobbyist and we award them the RFP.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nope.
Nope.
Passes 3-2. Thank you. We'll now move to agenda item of the consent agenda, which is agenda item number J. Any member of the public wish to make public comments on agenda item number 9 or 10, please do so at this time. Seeing no one, I'll close public comments and I'll entertain a motion.
I think, he was standing when you, as soon as you looked down.
I apologize, it's out of order, but I didn't understand Nick when he spoke of the firm, and it wasn't up on the screen, so I have no idea who you just voted for.
Okay, so we're approving the consent agenda item, but we'll address your comments. His approval was for the Southern Strategy Group. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. We'll now move to agenda item number K, which is public participation. This is the remainder of public comments. As our ordinance and our rules stand today, any member of the public can speak on items not on the agenda that have not already spoken this evening. We'll take up your comments accordingly following.
Jack Carroll, Palm Coast. I was at the meeting to, I can't think, to amend the charter. There weren't a dozen people in the whole place. Now, I want to ask just one question before I go further. Where are these people that are pushing for changing the charter? I mean, you know, we came up for the better part of the year, and I kept hearing that, you know, my people want this charter changed. They want to make an adjustment to the charter. Well, where are these people? You know, you put out a notice that you can have a meeting, and you want their input, and you don't get an input. What you get is not even a 0.1% of the population that comes in to say what they want to say. So we are spending money for something that the people don't give a damn about. People don't come to make any kind of adjustments. They don't care if we have a charter or if we don't have a charter. So I don't see why we're spending all this money, wasting all our time, right, on something that's not going to happen anyway. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Close public comment. Oh, Liv, sorry. You guys aren't fast enough.
Louis McCarthy, I just want to say to the workers that I think they're doing a terrific job. You know, we're small, and we have a lot of hard-working guys and girls out there. And all I can say is keep opening up those catch basins, because there's a whole lot of places that get water. I know you hear something from F section and the C section. I live in the P section, and I can assure you we get water there too. And all you have to do is fly over my house, and you'll see next to my house a lake. There's no lake. So, but in any event, I just like to compliment the guy, people, as I drive around and see them out there working and not chit-chatting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Carmen Bongiovanni. I'm a resident of Palm Coast. I just have one comment. I realize that the city uses reclaimed water, but why is it that the residents are forced to not use their sprinkler systems when it rains? And why is it that pouring rain and up and down Belterre, sprinkler systems are spraying all over the place? I realize that it's reclaimed water, but shouldn't the city set an example by having those rain gauges to where they don't sprinkle when it's raining? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. I'll close public comment. You know, I think we've moved forward with our charter review. I think it was the discussion of the council that every few years it's appropriate to address and review our charter, and I think we're trying to get the information out to as many people as possible to show up, and I think the best end result, quite frankly, Jack, would be as many people that could show up as possible that they do, and we hear from them. So it's you know, already been decided and discussed and approved, and we're having these workshops, and we're going to continue to get the message out there for our residents to participate.
Mayor, we have a workshop tomorrow night, 6 o'clock.
Indian Trails Middle School.
Trails.
Yes.
Expect to see you there, Jack.
Yes. And thank you for your comments, Mr. McCarthy, about our employees. Again, we really cannot thank them enough. Our residents are very, very fortunate to have the dedication that we have in our staff. So we really appreciate you recognizing them, because it doesn't go unnoticed. And this is an important comment about the reclaimed water, because I think there's a reason for this.
In fact, that was going to be part of my comment, so I'm going to turn it not just into reclaimed water, but what happens when we get 13-plus inches of rain in Palm Coast. Because, you know, it's one of those perceptions that if the storm has a name, that it's going to have more of an impact on us. And obviously the wind has major impact on us, and the effect of it is when you're out of power, it's very inconvenient. But the amount of rain we received this past weekend for a non-named storm had huge impacts on us, but in a different way. As far as our stormwater system, it handled it about as best as any system that you can have. But it is difficult right now, and I just hope the prediction of a lot more rain is not happening, because our natural systems are already over their banks. We don't hear a lot about that, but our creeks like Pilsner Creek, it's not inside its banks. It's just flowing outside and creating swamp. I drove down Old Kings Road this evening before the meeting. It still has water over Old Kings Road, and it's not because Old Kings Road isn't draining, it's because it's going through Grand Swamp, and Grand Swamp is full. So, you know, our system did extremely well. Our canals, the gates are totally open, just hard to get it to drain down because of the amount of water we had, not just this weekend, but for the last 2 months. It's been huge. To the reclaim, one of the major impacts that the water has on our services is going to be wastewater. The day of it's either Saturday or Sunday, it's probably Sunday, I think we were at our wastewater treatment plant. We only have one of them right now. We're building the second one. 13 million gallons we treated. Its normal capacity is about 6.5 million gallons. So we were right at double what that plant is normally handling, and that is what it's rated for. So when you have that much water coming into the plant, it has to go somewhere. Well, guess where it's going? It's going into reuse, and that's the best place to put it. So you will see if you drive down, let's say, Town Center Boulevard, there's a pipe that just has water spewing out of it. Yes. That's reuse, and that we're trying to discharge as environmentally friendly as possible, a way of getting rid of that treated wastewater. And this is treated at a very high level, so that it is environmentally friendly. US 1, you see the irrigation system going 24/7. That's a reuse line. That's getting rid of that effluent. that treated effluent. So we have a lot of those. So unlike, now your private system, nobody's irrigating out there right now because they don't need to. We don't need to either. But the fact of it is we need to get rid of it, and this is one of the ways we do that is to actually open up so if anything, you're lucky we're not doing 24/7 out in the medians, but that landscaping couldn't handle it. But it is something that we have to let that system continue to operate, or else we're going to dump it out in the intercoast, or we're not going to be able to treat it like we need to. So it is a very serious issue for us. Further, just to give you another idea, is that this morning the report was we're only 80% recovered in our wastewater system. We still had tanker trucks out last night and this morning. It is still not recovered. That is, it's that backed up. We still have people that were having trouble flushing their toilets in Palm Coast this morning. And so this is getting all that water, and most of it's rainwater, through the system is a big deal. Once again, it actually operates better than most utilities do. Very proud of it. But this is one of the reasons it is because we have to have a place for the water to go when it's treated. I got to tell the story on my family. They're probably going to shoot me. Sunday, I go over to the daughter and granddaughter's house, and they're on a PEP system. And I pull up, and Mom is not happy because the toilet's not flushing right. As I'm sitting there watching her washing machine go around, doing her third load of tub of laundry, and I said, you have any idea that laundry is going to that PEP tank that is not going where it's supposed to go because the whole system is, and so I always have to remind people when we have these major storms and our wastewater system is being taxed to the max, long showers, dishwashers, laundry, it is all just contributing to that problem. So if we can get people to turn off the washing machine and wear some of that clothes already in the closet, that's really very helpful to the whole thing. So just wanted to send that message. It's hard though, they know better, but when they really think about it, they don't connect the dots because that was only when electricity was off. Right? No, it's actually more than that. So just trying to tell that story. So, Mayor, I went on and on with that one, but it's...
No, I mean, listen, the rain has been very, it's aggravated the system even further, and it's just caused, when you have rain that has been a consistent problem or an issue for us, we only have so much capacity to handle that type of rain event, and 14 inches is very rare. And so we just, again, I think we just need to try to be as patient as possible through this experience.
If I could add one. On keeping the culverts open, keeping the drain pipes open, watching the weirs and trying to maximize efficiency. This is something that we have all hands on deck, even with a no-name storm like this, in the areas where we really need the help, and very proud of what we do. But the fact of it is that it's just impossible to stay up with it totally. And in this case, we did have a couple of confirmed houses with some water in them, relatively minor flooding. But if it's your house, there's nothing minor about flooding. So. Fortunate that we can handle more than 13 inches and not have flooding, but part of it is because we've got a great crew that works hard to try to minimize the impact, even though it is frustrating and scary for people, and we'll acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, discussion by City Council of matters not on the agenda. I'm going to go again with Councilwoman Sheffley.
I do have a couple. One of them, and I didn't want to bring it up during the lobbyist vote because I didn't want it to interfere with that, but there was, I had commented last time when we were voting that their label, our logo was on the top of theirs, and I found out that it does happen often in the city. On our website itself, it specifically says that the use of the city logo is limited to city contractors working on city projects, that people have to get permission to use our logo. So I just want to make sure that we pay attention to that. I think when it comes to the voting, sometimes if you see our logo on it, it might make us think, well, they're approved by City of Palm Coast, and they're not. They're just using our logo. So, again, I didn't want to make it about the lobbyists, but I don't think they should have used it, and I think we need to make sure that no one uses that in the future unless they have permission. The other thing was, at the last meeting, the last business meeting we had, somebody had got up and said that when they get up and make their comments at the end, that we have a section where we actually address, and I know some of them don't need to be addressed, some of their answers, some of them are just comments, but when someone makes a question about, I'd like a sign put up somewhere, or I'd like something done with the street, that we wait until the next city business meeting and address what they asked, so that they have an answer. If we did something, if they said the sign was down and we put the sign up, just to say at the next meeting we did address that. There's people that come back to our meetings and said, I never got an answer on that, what are we doing with it? So just to address any concerns that people have that need to be addressed and would require an answer.
I'll follow up with that.
Okay. And the cat situation's not going to happen, so, okay, that's it.
Councilmember Clufus.
I would only like to say thank you to all of our hardworking city employees during the torrential downpours and the continued efforts to get our systems under control. That's something that is critical, like Mr. Landon said, when flooding happens in your home, it's serious no matter what. So thank you very much for ensuring that's limited, and let's pray for no more rain.
Vice Mayor Nobile.
Yes, I have a few quick things. First, I just want to throw my 2 cents in the cat thing while we're discussing it or getting prepared to discuss it. It just, I don't have all the facts like the mayor was saying, but it seems if we had a colony of 25 cats and we went down to 7, that we're doing the right thing, and maybe we should just stick with that. I agree with you. We don't want colonies started or moved on public property because we said, but if one's there prior, and again, I don't know how this one got there. That's what I'm just saying. But if it's moving in the right direction, if the program is working, I would suggest let it work out. You don't need to answer. That's, while you guys are pondering through that. The other thing is the debris pickup. Would be nice, if it's possible, to get an update, because to me, it seems like the information we're putting on the website is generic and redundant. But it would be nice to say, this is what happened yesterday, this is what we anticipate tomorrow, and here's what we anticipate for your regular. You know what I mean? Just so people go, well, they picked up the whole left section, whatever. And, they're on their way here.
Cindy's already
Already
put
on
some
that.
things out to get more specific and have a map out that shows where we've been and.
Excellent.
And how much we do every day.
See, that's good. Yep, sounds
We
good.
we agree.
Okay. And I'm going to bring this up again, the trucks on Florida Park Drive. We had decided to put up signs to say no trucks allowed on Florida Park Drive. And where are we?
Well, actually, the sheriff's office and indicated that they can't enforce that, and so.
Well, what do you mean can't?
What we really agreed to was to do a little study as to what kind of truck traffic we have, and we have that, and I think I've shared that with you.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
They can't stop trucks from using Florida Park Drive that are local trucks making local deliveries.
Right, correct.
Right.
And that's what I meant. Actually, I should have clarified. I meant no through traffic trucks.
And what we've seen is that we don't know of any trucks at this point that are actually doing as a cut through going beyond the neighborhood. I believe, have worked through, Mark, if you could come work with us, that those that are doing deliveries can get off of the new interchange and come down that way. I thought this was under control so that we have it as best we can afford. Putting up a sign that you can't enforce. So, Mark, would you please help out?
To address the signs, Mr. Nobile, I've been going through this probably for about 15 years now. I've checked with DOT numerous, and years past and checked with them. If a truck is making a delivery and they're from Seminole Woods and they're going anywhere in Palm Coast, they're legal. So they can go, if they're going from Seminole Woods, say to Cimarron, they can drive through Florida Park Drive.
So we can't restrict?
You cannot restrict them. I've reaffirmed this numerous times. Things we've done in the past is I personally went out, we made up flyers, went out, and we could try this again. We've asked the local stores, convenience stores, if they can have their managers ask like the Pepsi trucks, whatever, bottle trucks to stop, and they do it and it lasts about a week. The city trucks abide by it. Whenever we're having any city construction, we ask them to go around Palm Harbor and they do it. So that's the problem we have. To go ahead and have a deputy stop them, it's really not enforceable.
Okay, yeah, well, if you can't, you can't. I mean, I didn't get that previously. I thought
I have
we were able to do it.
to Mr. Carr and all that, and I've been down at his house several times. And
okay, thank you. Okay, one last thing. Over the last 5 or 6 days, I have gotten more phone calls and hate mail and all kinds of nasty things on the signs over for the I-95 sign. I just, before I go into anything, I just have one question. What additional costs do we need to put into this before it comes up for a vote?
What additional cost? The next step will be design.
Okay.
And so you'd have the design cost. Carl has indicated that he believes he can get, if you got him to be less than $30,000 on design? Carl, can you maybe address that, please?
I don't have a formal proposal from them yet. Their initial concept or their initial estimated cost of ours was over $30,000. We're still in the negotiation phase on that fee. Our goal is to get it down under that $30,000 range.
So the reason why that's important, if the contract for the design is over $30,000, that would have to take approval by City Council. If it's not, then it would not require your approval. To answer your question, that was the construction or the installation, if you will, of the sign and the lighting and
the cost,
the package will definitely have to be approved by City Council because of the cost estimate. We know that will be well above $30,000.
Bless you.
Okay, God bless you. Okay, so then let me make this statement. First of all, I want to tell everybody this is why I said and still think it's a good idea, is I believe this is one of those things that is, we're going to spend money and we're going to put up this sign and it's going to raise awareness of Palm Coast. Now, just because the GPS says you're at Palm Coast, that's irrelevant. You know, people use appearance to get off exits, okay? And I believe this sign will pay for itself with tax dollars we'll get from, you know, I'm not talking about people coming in and saying, oh, I want to live here now, but getting off and using our gas stations and restaurants and that. However, like somebody stated, I don't believe that if we don't put it up, we're going to lose anything. So we're not going to get hurt if we don't put it up. Given the attacks and the firm objection to this project, I would suggest one of two things, that we don't move further on it, or we bring up the design for a vote regardless of what the price is, so we can do that way, bring it up or down before any more real dollars are put. 30,000 is significant to put into something that may not pass. So you know, that would be, you know, if we could bring that up for a vote, regardless of what the dollar amount is, and say, this way we can sit down, talk to our constituents, and decide at that moment, do we want to move forward with this sign? I think we just said that last meeting, but that was a workshop, but the backlash was, I don't know about you guys, I don't know what you're getting. I'm getting,
What people are saying is there's needs and there's wants.
Oh.
And after our taxes got raised,
Yeah.
they're saying, we don't want you to spend any money unless it's a need. And they don't see this as a need. I don't see it as a need. They don't see it as a need. And I think it's something that we just need to put on the back burner. It's just not necessary right now. And I think that's what they're looking for us to only do things that are necessary. I think that's how I take all that hate mail.
well, like I said, I agree. I don't want to.
I haven't received an email, I don't know.
Have you? Oh, my gosh.
I must be getting yours.
I know, but,
Everything must be going to your junk email because.
no, literally, I've received a lot of feral cat emails, a lot of cat emails. You know, I haven't, this isn't
Okay.
a priority for me, so I don't, it's not something that I was charging in and wanting to do either way, so I will leave it to the will of this council. Either way, it's not,
I personally would like to put it on hold.
and that's, I just don't, I agree.
Okay.
I have no problem, but also I think I understand the opportunity that it presents too, because we're trying to get people off of the highway, make it look like Disney World so that I totally understand, but I understand the will of people as well.
Yeah, because like I said, if this, there are times you don't make decisions by polls, but this is one of those things where, like you're saying, is, we do it, we don't do it, it's not gonna, like I said, doing it, I think, is a good idea. Not doing it, I don't think hurts us in any way or form, so.
No, I mean, we have flooding in the streets, and we
Yeah.
need to make tough decisions about stormwater issues. That's a critical need for our community, so those are decisions that are tougher sometimes, so signage is not one of them.
So,
Okay,
we can direct, oh, I'm sorry.
are you done with your comments, Vice Mayor?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I'm
okay.
sorry, yes.
Yeah, again, pretty much echoing what the other council members have brought up. One issue on the debris removal that I had talked about with some of the staff, and I know they were looking into it, is a number of folks have said, look, I've got a truck, I've got a trailer, tell me where I can take it, and I'll move my own. I understand there's problems with FEMA reimbursement with that and so on, but I think it's something we need to consider depending on how long the complete pickup will take. I mean, I don't think we want caravans of pickup trucks going somewhere, but by the same token, if people have the capability and they're sick of looking at it, and the only question is, where can I take it? I mean, that may be something we want to consider as time goes on.
Mr. Cuff, it sounds great, and if people would only bring us their yard debris and do what they're supposed to do, it'd be great. Yeah. But what happens is that we get their paint cans and their oil and and so in order to make sure we don't have a dump site, we would have to have it manned. And communities do that when they have a landfill that you can go to. We do not have a landfill or place to dump this other than just out in a field. And the only way it works is for it to be manned and somehow fenced off so at night they can't come and bring it. Otherwise, it causes other problems that are above and beyond with the good idea turns into be a nightmare. Those of us have done it. I've been in communities where Christmas trees, you could just drop off your Christmas tree. It is amazing what people drop off along with their Christmas tree. That then becomes a real problem. So we looked into it, and we know that places that have a landfill, they say bring it on down, we'd be happy to take it. We don't have that kind of setup, and they can take it to places like ESL. Did I get that right? ESL? ELS. They may charge them, but they're welcome to take them to a business like that. Nestor, you got an idea update on that?
The manager talked about how we compete for equipment. We're competing for dumping. We're now waiting 30, 40 minutes at ELS for our turn to dump. So just something to consider.
I'll be quick, because second thing is ditto, Mr. Nobile's comment about the cats. In the immortal words of Mel Brooks, Lozumgayan, at least in this case, but I do think we need to discuss it before. And hopefully none of them will be taken to a FEMA dump site and mess up our reimbursement. So that'd be the last thing I would want to see.
There's a long line at
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm kidding in case anybody's listening to this. But no, I went over a couple of times to try to see what was going on, because like the mayor, I got a few people that really, really didn't like the sign. I got tons of people that really, really, really didn't want to see that cat colony moved. And I understand there's a competing, I've also gotten one or two emails that in essence are, you want to take care of your feral cats, just issue hunting licenses, which I think is appalling. But I know there's people out there that feel that way and are.
You guys get some crazy emails, honestly.
It's,
I'm
anyway.
not on the right email list, I guess.
But I mean, I think we've kind of done the cats for this evening. And then the final thing is, on our discussion of stormwater, I know we just got through with the budget cycle. We talked about the budget for stormwater and the problems we're facing because of the way the fees are levied and the fact that when a roof goes up, we don't really get any more contribution to our stormwater maintenance fee. But I really think that's something we need to look at sooner rather than later. When my child was small, wading in the swales was charming, but the kind of stuff I see, standing there now after the kind of storms we've had, I don't think I understand. We're not going to make the swales drain, but I think the capacity of the system and the problems we've had with the hopefully unusual weather just indicate we need to put more, not effort, because I think that the city employees are doing fantastic, but when you have to get rid of this much water and there's just no place to put it, I think we need to put more emphasis on our stormwater system as just as important as our potable and wastewater, our traffic, our public safety. Unless we want to have a Palm Coast regatta after the next storm, That's my only other comment.
One question, I just wanted to involve the city attorney because he hasn't been here. Question, to the gentleman's question regarding speaking before and after. Our policy doesn't really specify that, so if we were to do that, that would be more of the discretion of the mayor, correct?
Well, the discretion of the council to give direction to the mayor, but you are correct in that the changes that we recently made to the council rules and procedures expanded the scope of the public comments to provide for this evening. I mean, we actually amended our code so that we would have a meeting, our public comments beginning before the regular agenda to accommodate greater input from the public. But no, there was anything specific that was in your amendments that said, okay, if you're going to talk before, that's your bite at the apple. It really is, I mean, they're your rules. So how you interpret them, if you want further amendments, we'd be happy to bring those back. But it's at your discretion.
All I have, Mayor. Thank you.
I concur with Councilmember Cuff's discussion that we need to, before next year's budget discussions, to really address this deficit in our stormwater fund. It is a big issue. I know we maintain our system, and I know that's what we put into it, and I know with more money we could advance that, but I think it's got to be a discussion that we have in advance of next year's hurricane season. Just because I do think that I've received a lot of emails in regards to a very serious drainage issue, and unfortunately, again, the 14 inches of rain were out of our control. I'm not actually stating that it was anybody's fault other than Mother Nature that created that, but we continually hear that we have a deficit in our stormwater system, and that's a problem. That's the major infrastructure need in our community.
Yes, very consistent conversation we started during the budget this year that we indicated to you we really do need to look at that, and we are not getting behind, but we're not making advancements. And I think what you're talking about is trying to make advancements so that we can reduce some of the scariness of the street flooding.
Yeah, so I would like to see at one point, staff to come back and come up with options for us.
We're already headed that direction as a result of the budget conversations we had a couple of months ago.
Thank you. And, you know, to the speaker's comments about having public comment before and after, I mean, I think we've gone above and beyond of offering public comment at the beginning and the end. Again, these are not issues that I think are critical issues, but I would say that I don't think, you know, we need to have speakers that speak in the beginning and speak at the end about the same exact topic. I think that doesn't serve any purpose other than, you know, to delay a conversation. So I'm fine either way.
But it can be on a different topic, though.
Different topic is fine. I mean, we give them every chance also during the meeting to speak on every single agenda issue. So if there's something that comes up in their mind at the end of it, you know, I'm fine with that as well.
Again, my understanding for the direction that you'd given to staff is that there was a concern that people that were, for comments on matters that were not on the agenda, it was a long wait during workshops and during the regular meetings. So the objective was to provide an opportunity to speak to matters that were not on the agenda at the beginning of meetings to accommodate those folks that had places to go or when we have a long meeting, just need to go to bed. So that was what we took as staff from the objectives to change your council rules and procedures and to change your ordinances for tonight's meeting and so on.
And I think it worked well. So, okay. Discussion by city attorney of matters not on the agenda.
Just a comment and a follow-up. Mayor, council, you've had comments during our discussions with regard to the selection of the lobbyist having to do with working with our legislature and local government being closest to the people. I would add on to that, it's the most transparent type of government that taxpayers and citizens have. And I think there is a tie-in between that recognition and the decision that you made tonight and the money that you spent tonight, because I have witnessed a growth in the laws that come from Tallahassee, that the substance of those laws are decided behind closed doors at the last minute, and I could sit here and give you example after example after example, just from the last legislative session, of matters that our lobbyists and other local governments lobbyists and the Florida League of Cities could not have predicted and could not have battled against. They just appeared. And I think that the folks that have worked for us in the Florida League of Cities have done a good job when they've had the opportunity to get to their representatives, to analyze the bills and to talk to our representatives up in Tallahassee. But you can't do that when it's done during a special session or done at the last day or the last 48 hours of the regular session. Mayor, you're more aware of this than I am, but I can't tell you how frustrating it is to local government attorneys to not be able to have any input with Florida League of Cities over matters that affect our ability to represent our citizens and our taxpayers at this local level. That's it, Mayor.
My hope is we just get $30 million for Old Kings Road North. So, I mean, they can stick to the games in Tallahassee, but, you know, we need the money, so.
That's it, just send the check and
Yep.
do whatever you want.
Knock yourself out.
I-
Discussion by city manager of matters not on the agenda.
A couple of my major ones we've already talked about. Let me start off with the fun ones because we are trying to get back to normal. In October, we're getting into a lot of the festivals and activities going on. And Movie in the Park Friday, the October 13th, the Pink Army Run Sunday, October 15th. Food Truck Tuesdays this month is October 17th, to give you some of the regulars that we have in October. But this Saturday evening, we're starting something a little new, and this is for kids 7+ all the way up to Jack. How old are you? It goes as old as you'd like.
36.
To bring your flashlights and do a little night walk through Linear Park. to see night animals, and as part of our nature emphasis, and that we find that a lot of people are very interested in going out and see what the critters are that's wandering around in a place like Linear Park at night. So we do ask that you sign up ahead of time so we know about how many people by this Thursday on our website, but that one's kind of a little unique, and that's my understanding this coming Saturday evening. Because we want you to sign up, I'm not going to tell you what time, so you have to go look and sign up and go from there. How's that? And then, Mayor, I need a little clarification on the sign over I-95. I wasn't real sure if we're talking about bringing it to City Council for a formal vote or just stopping the whole project.
We're stopping the project.
Okay, okay, good. That's fine. Last thing I have is, this is Chris Quinn's last council meeting. Friday's his last day here. I will have to say that Chris was more than just a finance director. You know, he really was a very important and very active and well-respected member of our management team throughout. You know, he was critical in our strategic action plan, and that whole process. Impressive staff, and I personally am going to miss Chris. He's been a colleague and someone that I value, and very special individual in my opinion. One of the things that he accomplished during his last year here was recruiting a chief accountant, I think is the title. Yep. If you recall, some of you may or may not, a few years ago, our auditor commented on the fact we needed more depth in our finance department because we only had one CPA, one true accountant. And so one of the things that once we started seeing some growth and could actually afford hiring people, one of the things we did in finance was ask Chris to go out and find somebody. He recruited individual that has worked many years for the Flagler County Clerk of the Court, and well respected there. And she started about a year ago here. And tonight I'm announcing that this employee that Chris highly recommends, I've appointed as our new finance director. So Helena, if you would please stand. You don't have to say anything. But Elves, yeah, you know, she's...
Got 3 more days, Chris. Stick in there, buddy.
She will be our new finance director. One of the things she has to do now is go find a chief accountant to help her out and make sure we have the depth there.
Tell the story about Alina's son. She's probably going to really be embarrassed, but I spoke to her son's class, and he was very, very bright young man. I didn't know at the time it was your son, and he had a whole list of questions prepared for me in advance, and he said, my mom's at a conference in Orlando right now. Do taxpayers pay for that? This was a 7th grader. And I was like, well, yes, you know, it's an educational conference. We, you know, like to make sure our staff is prepared and educated, and she was mortified. And he came home that night, and he was like, why would you ask her that? And she was like, he said, because I'm a citizen and a resident here, and I deserve to know. So maybe in our, you know, internship program, eventually, it might be another generation of conservative accountants that we've been able to really secure. So I just thought that story I'll never forget was just unbelievable, but it certainly speaks to your approach in your family. So.
Very excited about having Helena join us, and already had an impact on the organization, so hopefully everybody welcomes her. Mayor, that's all I have.
And Chris, you know, well done. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a good one.